Just knocked my watch against the table pretty loudly. All right. Welcome to the Ponderosa Pine Podcast. I guess the first order of business is we're back. It's been quite some time since I've recorded an episode. It's kind of a lot goes into that, but the truth of it is it's completely my fault. Last year, I started out doing interview-style podcasts, and those actually were going pretty well until the fourth episode, which actually should have been the third episode because we recorded it twice, had some pretty severe technical difficulties, and then Aaron was a champ and re-recorded the entire thing with me, and we still lost the video. So that was really frustrating. Also had some difficulty lining up guests. Turns out that's a little bit harder than I expected, especially when you're a complete no-name podcast. And then I had some health issues came along, and at the end of the day, it was a lot of excuses. No real reasons to stop. I know statistically, the vast majority, I think it's well over 90% of podcasts that get started don't make it past episode 7. We haven't even made it to episode 7 yet, so it's not looking too good. But I've decided to refocus. I've decided to start putting some content out, even if it's just solo content, just me sitting here talking about some stuff. I've got some topics that I've been working on, fleshing out. One of the things I don't want to do is put out some kind of political opining like I see in so many other podcasts. Really what I'd like to do is kind of discuss issues that I find thought-provoking and important, and kind of leave you, the listener or viewer, if you're watching this on YouTube, to kind of make up your own mind and see what you think about stuff. So I'm going to do some shorter format stuff because I think just me sitting here talking, I'm just not going to have that much to say. I don't intend to do a lot of writing besides just taking a few notes and some talking points, but I don't intend this to be some kind of a storytelling thing. I just want to put some thoughts out there, and maybe someday this will serve as some kind of record for my daughter to look back on the way I was looking at stuff at this point in time, or for other people. Who knows? Maybe it could inspire somebody if I come up with something that really strikes a note with them. One thing I would ask if you're listening to this or watching this is don't be afraid to ask questions. Challenge me to talk about things that you want to talk about. No promises. If I think it's not something that's in my wheelhouse, I may not engage with it. I might address it, but I may not spend a lot of time on it. But I do want to solicit feedback and input from the listeners or the viewers. So I've got a few different topics that I'm going to talk about coming up, and I'm going to try and start putting stuff out a little bit more regularly. I know algorithm-wise, I probably really shot myself in the foot by going like 8 months without doing anything, but who knows? Maybe the audience will just kind of eventually start building, or maybe not. Maybe this will just be out there, and whoever finds it finds it. A couple of things I want to talk about. I've got this little notebook. I wrote made some notes, and these are things that I've found have profoundly affected my life, both in my childhood and adult life, and then also just things that I've found to be very helpful or important in terms of my own decision making. So some of the things I plan on doing podcasts about, one of them is about bullying. I got invited to do a little thing for a kid's summer camp a few years ago, a little talk for some kids, and did some research on bullying, and the talk I gave was pretty well received. I was severely bullied as a kid, and I think today's world is very challenging for kids, because one of the things that I discovered as a kid is fighting back was an incredibly powerful tool. And I think kids today just don't have that option because of zero tolerance policies in schools for violence and things like that. So just maybe talking about bullying and how it affects both kids and adults, and some strategies to deal with it that maybe aren't just as simple as fighting back. But I want to do a whole thing on that. Another topic, my wife and I have talked about this a lot, is being willing to lean into change in your life. So if things aren't going the way you want, don't be afraid to make big, bold course corrections, and do something different. A lot of people feel very trapped in their places in the world, in their lives, in their jobs, in their living situations, relationships, and if you kind of build the habit of not being afraid to make changes fairly early, I think that's conditions you for success when the big important things come along. And we've got a few big things we've done in our lives, and I may even bring Sally, my wife, on here to talk about that, because we've talked a lot about our willingness to make big changes and how much that's served us well over the time we've been together. Another thing I want to talk about is dedication versus motivation. So, and just kind of how those differ. And I think this podcast is a great example of me letting motivation drive the train instead of dedication. So that's something to look forward to. I'd like to address, I hear a lot of people, especially people my age, complaining about younger generations. And I think that's kind of unfounded. And there's a lot of historical precedent to say that maybe young people aren't as bad as we think they are. So I'd definitely like to speak a little bit on that. And just some other things that I see going on in the world. And like I said, I don't necessarily want to impose my opinions onto the internet. I'd rather just bring up some talking points and some thinking, some things to think on. And then really kind of like everything in life, you should make up your own mind about all these things. So anyway, I'm going to try and keep moving forward with this. Going to try and pick it back up and, work on getting better at doing this podcasting thing. There's going to be some very short episodes coming up, which is probably a good thing. It'd be easier to digest, not a big time commitment, and then I definitely do want to do more interview style podcasts. It's just going to I'm going to see when that makes sense. And so I was banking a little bit too much, like I said, motivation. I was banking too much of my motivation on getting good guests and having interesting conversations. And then when that didn't work out, when I fell short of the goal on that, then I just didn't want to do anything, because that's kind of a flaw of mine, is if I can't do something really well, I'd rather not do it at all rather than do it okay and do it consistently, which is a better recipe for long-term success in just about anything. So anyway, look forward to more stuff. Like I said, ask me questions. You can either email me. The contact information is out there on all the platforms. You can send in a message or just in the comments on individual things. So give me some stuff you want to talk about too. I'm down to try and discuss some different things and come up with some, like I say, thought-provoking ways to talk about stuff, and not necessarily opinionated rants. I'm going to try and avoid that, because I think we've got way too much of that in the world right now. There's been a lot going on. We had a presidential election. We've had a number of high-profile incidents that have been covered ad nauseum in the news, including assassination attempts on presidential candidate, terrorist attacks, and then a weird suicide in front of the Trump Tower in Las Vegas. So there's been a lot going on, and I'm sure people are thinking about a lot of stuff, and definitely it's worth considering these kind of things without opining on them. So we'll try and drill into some different stuff, and then just kind of see where this podcast goes from here. For any of you that stuck around after the first go, I appreciate it. If you still get a notification and watch this, and just know that I'm going to try to do things more frequently than twice a year. And I'm going to try and see what this needs to look like. So, you get to have a say in that, and I'm just going to sort of drive forward trying some different stuff. But it should be fun. Maybe it'll be a little bit interesting, and let me know what you think. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate you. Take care.